Okay, hopefully this loads here. Come on. Okay, guys, so we're going to start talking about the female reproductive system. You're going to see my production of a female reproductive system. If you hear my daughter crying in the background, she's just, getting changed and she doesn't like it. Okay, so with the female reproductive system, we're just going to talk, basically, a lot of this is just going to be me telling you information. And then we're also going to talk about some different hormones that are associated with the female reproductive system. The idea behind the female reproductive system is to ensure that we are able to produce offspring. At the end of the day, the female reproductive system is supposed to nurture and provide everything that they need for the gamete once they unite with a male gamete to produce the offspring. And in addition, it can also provide protection and nutrition, so especially the nutritional portion that comes from the breast milk for several years that you can get after conception. So again, remember, your essential organs are always going to be whatever's paired with your ovaries, and then the accessory organs are going to be, your vagina, your uterus, your uterine tubes, uvula. Again, remember, the essential organs are the ones that produce the gametes. Accessory organs are kind of the ones that help the gametes get wherever they need to get to. And then we also have some accessory glands, and that's going to be in different portions. Again, remember, we kind of talk about, whenever you talk about the female reproductive system, most people are concerned with, your ovaries and your uterus, but your breasts are also a portion of your female reproductive system, and they're the ones that secrete the milk, specifically breast milk, that is necessary for, nutrition for the baby for the rest of their life, first, year of their life at least. Okay. So this is just your female reproductive organs. As you can see, your reproductive system is very close to your urinary tract, and so therefore, a lot of times too, it can cause, depending on whatever the case may be, you can mistake either a urinary tract infection with a yeast infection. Again, both very close to each other. So that's just pretty much the idea behind this. So as you can see there, more reproductive organs. So just like their male has a perineum, so does the female. Mostly that's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be located, goes again to the anus, but there's going to be different organs that are involved. As you can see here, you're going to be dealing with your opening of the vagina, your clitoris, hymen, vestibule. Again, most of these are going to be different and much more of a little bit different shaped of a triangle. We still have the anal triangle. This is still a urogenital triangle. So very similar in that regard, but the accessory organs that are going along with that are much different. Okay? And remember, you also have pubic hair that is not really seen as much with males. So with the female reproductive system, their first major organ that you kind of talk about is going to be your ovaries. And your ovaries are essentially located on each side of your uterus, and they're responsible for making the fetus. Well, they're responsible essentially for making not necessarily the fetus, but the gametes that eventually become the fetus. One thing that can be an issue that you can often see within your ovaries and your fallopian tubes is going to be an epitotic pregnancy. And essentially what that means is that when the sperm finds the gamete, so when the sperm finds your egg, it unfortunately lines, instead of lining in your uterus like it's supposed to, it lines inside of your ovary or inside of your fallopian tube. So again, here's the location of your ovaries. Again, they call this, I believe they call this the uterine tube now, but it's also called the fallopian tube. I call it the fallopian tube. But at the end of the day, this is connecting your ovary to your uterus, and that's how your eggs, which are your gametes, travel to find the sperm. Okay. So they have basically, when you're looking at the different types of connective tissues, so you have several different things. The surface, they're kind of covered by a germinal epithelium. And again, that would also be in a area where you could also see normal flora. to protect, for those that are taking microbiology, to protect the ovaries. In addition, you have the next layer is going to be the ovarian cortex. And this is just kind of a deep connective tissue. It's the second layer to protect the ovaries. Then you have the ovary follicles, and those are where you contain all of your immature female sex cells. So all of the, before they become gametes, essentially, oocytes, before they become the eggs, those are going to be found in your ovary follicles. And then the ovary medulla, that's going to be containing all of your supportive tissue. So that's your tissue cells, your blood vessels, nerves, any of your lymphatics, stuff to protect the future sex cells from any type of invading organism. Okay. So again, the medulla, this is just the area around the primary follicles. So again, kind of like you have your outer layer, your inner outer layer, and then your follicles, and then you go to the medulla. Okay. So primary follicle, this is going to be a single layer of granulosa cells. You'll see in the picture here, they are actually smaller than the secondary follicles. Again, these are going to be matured to become your sex cells and what we call into granified follicles. So they're going to attach to the oocyte to the follicle wall. So basically allowing for the cells to become, mature sex cells. In ovulation, you're going to release the ovum, which is going to be your mature sex cell at the end of oogenesis. Again, this is making your oocyte into your ovum. And that's kind of just the idea here. This part here is going to be when it doesn't line to the uterus. Okay. So remember, they produce the female gametes, which comes from oogenesis, and they also secrete specific sex hormones, estrogens and progesterones. So that's the functions of your ovaries. That's kind of the role that they play in your female reproductive system. Okay, so this is just showing the developing ovia. Okay, so now that we've understand kind of sort of what role we're playing in the development of a female sex cell, what happens after this? Well, it goes through the uterine tube or the fallopian tube and then enters into the uterus. And so the uterus is just going to be it's like a little pear-ish structure with two main parts. It's kind of got a body and a cervix. And the idea behind this is it kind of is the pelvic cavity between the urinary bladder and the rectum. It's located in there. And the function of it and the position, basically the idea behind this is that it allows for you to be able to have the baby develop within your uterus. So I guess is the best way to say this. So remember, we kind of talked a little bit about this. There's several ligaments that actually hold the uterus in place for the most part, and they do allow for some movement, and this will change as you become pregnant. Okay? Become more flexible. So those are the uterine ligaments. Again, you have your two broad ligaments, your uterosacral ligament, two uterosacral ligaments, posterior ligament, anterior ligament, and two round ligaments. Okay. So the wall of the uterus, this is where the the fetus will implant and get a lot of its stuff to grow and indicate that that's how you're going to become pregnant. So it's going to be composed of three layers: the endometrium layer, and this is going to be your inner layer, the myometrium layer, and the parametrium layer. And so the endometrium is where essentially the baby is going to go ahead and implant during the female reproductive system cycle, if that's what happens. And it's going to consist of three different kind of layers in and of itself. There's going to be the compact layer, and this is just going to have still epithelial cells, but they're going to be singular, collimated, ciliated, very compact, almost like a little bit along those lines. The spongy middle, this is going to be the spongy middle layer. It's got loose fibrous connective tissues, and the basal layer, which is the outer layer, the inner layer, and that's going to be the what attaches the endometrium to the myometrium. Okay. So the cavities of the wall of the uterus are small because of the thickness of the uterine walls. And again, this is going to be the blood supply is going to be received from the uterine artery for the most part, but you can also get some from the ovary and the ovarian and the vaginal artery as well. Okay. So what's the function? Again, it wants to allow for part of the reproductive trunk. It wants the sperm to go towards the uterine tubes to create an embryo or a fetus. And then once conception occurs, you're going to develop within the uterus. So it's going to have the embryo is going to be supplied with nutrients through the placenta, which will form once the offspring has been, conception has occurred. In addition, you're also going to experience the contractions during gestation, which is during the time during when you're going to be going through labor. Okay, so the uterine tubes, again, these connect the fallopian tubes. These connect your ovaries to your uterus. Again, they kind of are on both sides and they curve downwards and backwards. Again, they're going to be considered. They have like a mucosal lining, inflammation. This can that's directly continuous with the perineum lining in the pelvic cavity. Again, any type of inflammation may lead to scarring or issues with future fertilization, being fertile or not. And then in addition, we have each uterine tube has 3 divisions. It's going to have the middle third, intermediate, and funnel shaped. And each of these indicate those. Okay? Okay, so these are just some of the surfaces of the uterine tube. So we're going to stop here, and then we're going to pick up with the rest of our video for the next one.